What's up, YouTube? Back with another video. I want to go over this great topic of a book that is really dear to my heart that I love, and it's called Outwitting the Devil. Now, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like, but it might be kind of reversed because of my camera. But this is what the book looks like. It's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, and this is a great book for anybody who is looking to deconstruct from systemic structures, right? If you are on a beginner, spiritual journey, and the thing about spiritual journey that I want people to know about is that a spiritual journey is really just a journey to know self. It's about self-discovery. It's about self-discovery of the universe and how it works. And a spiritual journey is really unraveling and figuring out the depths of things, right? Because there's a lot of things that may look a certain way, but there's always something underneath it. And that's what I think of a spiritual journey really is. So if you're somebody who is looking to know more about themselves, know about the world, human psychology, a little bit about how things, just you work, the universe works, this is a great book to start with. And it's really just for anybody, to be honest. It's for everybody. And I wanted to kind of get into the contents of this book, some of the things that you may read. Like in the beginning of this book, one of my favorite quotes of this book, and it talks about fear. And it states that fear is the tool of a man-made devil. Self-confident faith in oneself is both the man-made weapon which defeats the devil and the man-made tool which builds a triumphant life. And it is more than that. It is a link to the irresistible forces of the universe which stand behind a man who does not believe in failure and defeat as being anything but temporary experiences. So there was a point in my life, man, where, I was deconstructing from like religious beliefs, a lot of things. And this book really became my Bible. As you can see, like, I have so many like things that I've kind of, unraveled from this book. Like, I literally marked this book up left and right. And the contents of this book, some of the things that it will talk about is like in chapter 2, how it talks about a new world is revealed to me. And what Napoleon Hill kind of gets into really is just this discovery of this world as he actually begins to know more about himself. And the funny thing is that the more mature that I become, inside of my own life, the more that I understand that, Napoleon Hill is not really talking to the devil. What he's doing is that he's talking to the shadow aspect of himself. And, when I was breaking down, more of religious things and systemic structures, I'm like, is he really talking to the devil? Is he really? But the interesting thing is that there's a devil inside of all of us. There is a demonic nature within everybody. And it's actually through discovering your demonic, energy and who you are at that demonic shadows aspect of yourself. You'll be surprised about if you have conversations in your head with yourself about the shadow aspects, you'll be surprised about what it reveals to you. Hence why in chapter 2, a new world is revealed to me. He talks about there's a new world revealed to me. He talks about chapter 4 about drifting with the devil. And this one is a very important one because he talks about the drifter. And a drifter is really anybody who does not understand their purpose or know who they are. So you have to understand, inside of this universe, there are so many things that can pull you. And a drifter is somebody that is easily pulled. Now, if you go back to the quote that Napoleon Hill that I talked about with fear, he states that the man-made weapon which defeats the devil and the man-made tool which builds a triumphant, he says self-confident faith in oneself is both the man-made weapon which defeats this devil and the man-made tool which builds a triumphant life. So anybody who knows self, they are not easily swayed. So he goes into how certain things drift you and how it can drift you away. But once you know self, it's really like nobody can really touch you. And it's very true. He talks about something called hypnotic rhythm, which is very important. I think anybody should just, do a quick, type into Google about what hypnotic rhythm is. And once you start to understand that this world is this world is heavily based on rhythm. And you have to understand the things that you do day to day has a certain rhythm. It has a certain beat. It has a certain 1-2 step. Boom, 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 tap, boom, boom, tap, 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 boom, 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 tap. So everything has a rhythm. And you have to understand that when you're not conscious of the rhythms that you're playing inside of your life, you can actually become in some way hypnosed to it. Is that a word? You can become hypnotized to that rhythm. And you can't you're not just hypnotized by that rhythm, but you're also you can become addicted to that rhythm. Right? So anything that goes outside, so I'm making the beat boom, boom, tap, boom, boom, tap, 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 boom, boom, tap, 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 boom. Now, if I put a boom, boom, bloop, boom, boom, bloop, bloop, tap, tap, boom, 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 tap, tap, you see that bloom inside of that rhythm that I just possessed, right? It would be something that can destruct the construct. But because I put a boom, boom, boom inside of that rhythm, a lot of people would not like that, and they will be hesitant to breaking out of certain rhythms. So it's interesting how this universe in Napoleon Hill, he goes into breaking down how to actually get out of this hypnotic rhythm. So another one, he talks about things like seeds of fear. And if anybody's on this journey, they understand that fear is one of those things that you really have to tackle inside of your life. I don't have to say too much about that, but fear is one of those things that really hinders somebody from finding their full potential. He talks about definiteness of purpose, right? Which correlates with what I talked about with drifting with the devil, how you have to know definite of purpose. Once you're on your purpose, it's kind of like nothing can steer you the other way. He talks about in chapter 9, education and religion. So he talks about breaking down these systemic structures, where he kind of goes in depth about the systemic structures, about, how education can put us in hypnotic rhythms, how religion can put us in hypnotic rhythms. And it's very interesting that, from the day we're born, man, we have been giving this roadmap that nobody really tells us that we can kind of drift from, which is funny. I said drift from, that nobody tells us we can really drift from, or nobody really shows us that there's something else, but we're just given this map. So he has in chapter 11, learning from adversity. Chapter 12 is I like chapter 12 a lot, because he talks about environment, time, harmony, and caution. And you have to understand your environment plays a lot into who you are as a person. And your environment can keep you in that hypnotic rhythm. And, a lot of people have to learn to venture out of their environment. Not just venture out of their environment, but venture outside of their mindset as well. I know a lot of people from back in the day, man. They don't know anything but the street that they live on. And the further that they go is probably to the corner store that's down the street, or the market that's down the street, and they go right back home. And you have to understand that, your environment, your rhythm, your environment, your rhythm, also you have to understand the people that you're around can keep you in this hypnotic rhythm. Because like mama used to say, like your parents used to say, right? You have to understand that your friends play, or the people or your friends play a heavy influence inside of your life. And, if there are, I forgot what the saying is. There's many sayings of this description of what I'm talking about. But usually they say if there's two dumb ones around you, then you're like the third one. And it becomes very, very true. You have to be cautious of the company that you keep. You have to be wary of the company you keep. So, I'm gonna end it here, man. This book is very dear to me. He's also a book that I've also read of his is Think and Grow Rich. I could probably talk about that in a different video. But Napoleon Hill is really good when he breaks down the psychology of certain things, the mindset of things. And one thing I like about him is that I like people who really, they teach you things, but they're not trying to show you how to really get there. They're giving you hints, and they're showing you what to look for, but they're not showing you like, this is what you need to be, really, really searching for. That's the specific thing that it looks like, because if you look at my other videos, you have to understand, when you become more developed in your spiritual journey, you will understand that everything around you changes, but you have to figure out the rhythm of what the thing that you're looking for. But peace and love.